Yes, indeed, Carl. Out of San Antonio at Lackland Air Force Base, there was an active shooter situation this morning. Deputies responded to that. The FBI is responding to it. That, of course, is a look at Google Earth. That's the Lackland Air Force Base. We know of 2 fatalities. The scene is still active. The sheriff public information officer just clarified that the shooter is not still active, but the scene is still active. That just happened moments ago. We know of 2 fatalities, according to the sheriff's office. The FBI is responding as well. Lackland Air Force Base is basically the location for U.S. Air Force Base military training. It has a tech training command component to it as well. This developed about a half an hour ago, and the sheriffs have responded. We know of 2 fatalities. We're monitoring the situation as you look at this live picture right outside of the Air Force Base. Carl, I'll send it back to you.
And back here at home to the deadly shooting on an American military base. A squadron commander and an airman killed at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. The base immediately put on lockdown. Terrorism ruled out. ABC senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas on the investigation tonight.
Police swarming in as Lackland Air Force Base is on lockdown amid word of a gunman on the sprawling military complex.
We got 2 teams right now actively searching.
Authorities on scene within 3 minutes soon find evidence of a deadly encounter.
We do have 2 victims. Both of those victims have been determined to be deceased.
Police discovered 2 Glock pistols at the crime scene.
We're in the process of beginning to conduct our crime scene investigations, as well as looking for other leads and information as to determining how this incident began.
ABC News has learned the early evidence points to a murder-suicide. The motive, according to law enforcement sources, workplace violence, with a squadron commander allegedly killed by an airman facing discipline. Tom?
Pierre, thank you.
About an hour ago, Bexar County Sheriff's deputies were called by Lackland Air Force Base for an active shooter situation here on the base inside the facility. Our deputies arrived. They made entry inside the facility. They did a search where they went throughout different rooms that were open. They went on different floors looking for an active shooter. They did find 2 people who were dead. Right now it does appear to be a murder-suicide situation. However, there are still some rooms that are locked that we are still trying to gain entry into. So at this time we don't know if there are other victims. We have deputies currently inside the building doing an active search, sweeping the entire facility. In the meantime, the facility is on lockdown. While this continues and while it progresses, we do believe that the shooter is accounted for. However, we want to make sure that we clear the entire facility before we make that final determination.
Can you tell us anything about the victims' relationship, anything, work together, what, male, female?
Right now, we are still trying to determine if there are other victims. That's our priority. We want to make sure that anybody who is still at this facility is safe and that they're accounted for.
And back here at home to the deadly shooting on an American military base. A squadron commander and an airman killed at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. The base immediately put on lockdown. Terrorism ruled out. ABC senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas on the investigation tonight.
Police swarming in as Lackland Air Force Base is on lockdown amid word of a gunman on the sprawling military complex.
We got 2 teams right now actively searching.
Authorities on scene within 3 minutes soon find evidence of a deadly encounter.
We do have 2 victims. Both of those victims have been determined to be deceased.
Police discovered 2 Glock pistols at the crime scene.
We're in the process of beginning to conduct our crime scene investigations, as well as looking for other leads and information as to determining how this incident began.
ABC News has learned the early evidence points to a murder-suicide. The motive, according to law enforcement sources, workplace violence, with a squadron commander allegedly killed by an airman facing discipline. Tom?
Pierre, thank you.
Give Cruz credit. It's not all about Donald. Give Cruz. Cruz ran a great organization, lots of money, and he was on message. He talked about jobs and wages and growth and being an outsider and Obamacare. He really hit the messages. Mr. Trump, on the other hand, was always on the defense. Way, way off message. Did not have a good organization. And here's what I don't get, Sarah. How in the hell do you attack Governor Scott Walker, who is by far the most popular Republican in Wisconsin? He's probably not as popular overall as you want, but Republicans.
And as you mentioned, better economics there as well.
And the unemployment rate in Wisconsin is 4.6%, which ain't bad.
It's not bad at all. And you know that's
he's going after. And I'll be right with you. He's just going after the popular governor, who obviously is close to Reince Priebus, who obviously has a soft spot in his heart for a possible Paul Ryan candidacy. And I just don't understand why Trump went after the most popular governor. I don't get that. I'll never get that.
Say again? He's a sore loser, and he has proven it time and time again. And, you know, this is a person who, you know, has not built a campaign infrastructure, and now, as the rubber hits the road in these delegate contests, you know, is pointing fingers and lashing out perhaps even more so than he's done in the past. And so I disagree with Larry in the sense that last night I think was a real turning point in the Republican race. Donald Trump can now, because of his devastating loss last night, he can now still win every delegate in New York, and most of the delegates, all the delegates in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and many of the delegates in these upcoming contests, and still not have enough delegates on June 7th, the last day of voting, to wrap this up. And so I think it is now almost inevitable that this is going to be an open convention.
But that's not the maths, is it? I mean, if he wins New York and he wins it, and he basically has a clear sweep of the 95 delegates, he only therefore needs to win 53% of the delegates moving forward. I mean, to the point that you've made, Larry, is he still in the game as a GOP nominee here?
He's the front runner. Look, Sarah is a dear friend, and I respect her judgment. She knows a lot more about politics than I do, but I don't think Wisconsin fundamentally changes the math to which you are referring. Now, does it make it a little harder because he got, you know, what did he get, 5 delegates last night for Trump? Yes, it does.
It does. Here's
going
the
to
challenge.
California. It's going to California. However, I do not believe New Yorkers are following the Wisconsin primary closely. And I think you still have to give advantages. The Northeast primaries after New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, all that stuff, those are Trump states. Wisconsin was not really a Trump state. So I don't want to take anything away from Ted Cruz. He had a great night and a great strategy. But, you know, Trump is far from
You guys,
that.
I love you, Larry. I love you. You're awesome. I agree with you on economics virtually 100%, but you're wrong on this.
Thank you.
In New York, for example, it is proportional statewide. The delegates are divided proportionally, and in the congressional districts, there you have to reach a threshold of 20% to get delegates, and if you're under 50%, they're proportional. Donald Trump isn't going to win all the delegates in New York. California is structured just like Wisconsin. These are congressional district plays at this point. He would have to virtually win 65% of all the unbound delegates to get there by convention day, and I just don't see it happen.
And frankly, if it affects NATO to the point where we're not going to have NATO, we'll come up with something else. Don't worry about it. But we just have to do it. You always have to be able, in deal making, you always have to be able to walk. You have to be able to walk. So I took a lot of criticism. They said, here was the headline, Donald Trump wants to dissolve NATO. That's not what I said. And I said, and this is the Washington Post, this is others. I said, Donald Trump wants to have people pay. Donald Trump wants to adjust for terrorism, which we have to do. Donald Trump wants to do all of the things that I explained. Donald Trump wants to get all of the back money that's owed to us by all of these countries who have had a free ride or close to a free ride. And Donald Trump wants to make the United States rich again and great again and wants to help other nations. I want to help other nations. But we don't want to be the fools. We don't want to be the dumb patsies that we are all over the